Good morning and welcome to St. Michael's Episcopal Church here in Colorado Springs. My name is Matt, I'm the rector, and today is October 5th. I am delighted to be with you for this special Sunday forum. If you are joining us online, a special welcome to you. If you are watching this after the fact, we're grateful you're taking the time to hear this big news. It's great to see so many of you here. I know I've been building this up for quite some time, and I hope it is worth all the hype. I anticipate it will be, but as always here in this community, we are going to begin with prayer. So the Lord be with all of you. Let us pray. God of new beginnings, as we stand at the threshold of something new, fill us with courage where there is uncertainty, faith where there is doubt, and vision when we cannot see the way. Remind us that every great work begins not in strength but in trust, not in perfection but in being present. And in all that unfolds, let your will be done. Your wisdom guide and your spirit sustain us. And all this in the name of the one who guides our life, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So, as many of you know, we have a bold mission here at St. Michael's to make Christ known. It's like you guys read that or something. As many of you know, we have been making tremendous investments here at St. Michael's. Earlier this year, we created a goal for our sacred spaces to do a tremendous reinvestment project, to take care of some safety issues, to refresh various parts of our building, to increase our parking. We are well through phase one. We have already invested over half of the funds that have been contributed to that campaign, and things are looking great. It's wonderful to be back in our refreshed sanctuary. It's wonderful to have 35 more parking spaces. It's great to have newer bathrooms and no more toddler toilets in the restrooms. It's an inside joke. So one of the things that's been happening behind the scenes for nearly a year at this point is a pretty ambitious ministry. In the midst of focusing on our community, myself, our wardens, a handful of others, have been busy toiling behind the scenes. And after much hype, we are ready to share that news with you, this community, as well as the broader community here in Colorado Springs and beyond. One city in particular, which you'll hear about in a second. So what I want to do is I want to make sure we are... This right here is a brief representation of the ways in which we are going beyond our walls here at St. Michael's. These are numerous outreach partners that we are currently engaged with, that we are supporting through financial resources and grants from this community, as well as volunteer and resources. This is a big list. And when I say that we're engaged in these ministries. We have people who are going down to territorial prison. We have people who are going to Laundry Love to wash laundry every single week. We have snack partners that are supporting our partners in housing. We're going to District 20 to drop off resources. There's a lot of work that we're doing, and one of the things that has been happening is we have been building capacity over the past several years, whether you knew it or not. As we've been building capacity here at St. Michael's, we have also been able to bring on some new partners, and each year, in terms of what is represented on here at St. Michael's, we are sending out over $150,000 a year for this work that you see on this screen right here. This is work that we believe in. It supports our mission, and our mission supports them. So I want to thank you because your generosity of what you're already doing if you didn't know it, is supporting these partners and the amazing work they're doing. I do have to say a few thank yous to Susan Feudy, our outreach chair. I saw her earlier. She was probably in the sacristy. But I want to say a special thank you to Susan Feudy, as well as John Newmare. John Newmare is our new social ministries coordinator. We brought him on staff this year, and he has been doing tremendous work. And our outreach committee. Our outreach committee, 25 strong, are supporting these ministries, helping us coordinate and organize. But wait, there's more. So you have seen this image that we've been using to promote, and there is great significance behind this image. I'm gonna pause from speaking through this microphone, and we have a presentation. It's about a 6-minute video that is going to explain a lot. As you're watching it, you're probably gonna have questions, and the great news is I have 2 special guests who are here with me who are gonna help unpack this and share more about it after this video is done.
For more than a century, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church has stood at the heart of Manitou Springs. It's been a place of prayer, of welcome, and service to others. Since its founding in 1870, generations have gathered here to worship, to celebrate life's milestones, and to find strength in times of need. From the earliest days, St. Andrew's has been more than just a church building. It's been a spiritual home, ministering to the people of Manitou Springs with compassion, courage, and care. Whether through worship, outreach, or acts of service, St. Andrew's has stood as a beacon in the center of the city. St. Andrew's has had a long and faithful history. However, in recent years, its impact and attendance has declined. This is the story familiar to many churches in our time. But rather than closing the book, St. Michael's Episcopal Church in Colorado Springs saw an opportunity to honor St. Andrew's legacy by helping them turn the page to write a new chapter full of possibilities and opportunities. In this season of renewal, the people of St. Michael's, with the support and blessing of the Bishop and the Episcopal Diocese of Colorado, we are honored to take up that legacy. With deep gratitude and for the faithful witnesses who came before us, St. Michael's has been entrusted with the oversight and stewardship of St. Andrew's. Through careful planning, prayerful discernment, and living into our identity as a resource church, St. Michael's has shaped a bold vision for St. Andrew's future. That vision has taken form in the creation of the St. Andrew's Community Center. Unanimously supported by the vestry of St. Michael's, this new beginning will be a place where the long history of ministry continues, now expanded in fresh and exciting ways. And while the building will no longer serve as a house of worship, it will serve as a place where neighbors gather, lives are strengthened, and hope takes root. St. Michael's Episcopal Church brings not only oversight and accountability, but also energy, creativity, and a spirit of partnership. Together with neighbors, civic leaders, and ministry partners, we are working to make St. Andrew's Community Center a place of community for all who call Manitou Springs home. St. Andrew's Community Center is more than a building. It's a place of connection, compassion, and collaboration. A space created to serve Manitou Springs while providing volunteers the opportunity to get proximate, learn new narratives, to do difficult things, and to stay hopeful about this shared work. The vision is simple: to open doors and create opportunities. Here, neighbors can gather, ministries can grow, and partnerships can flourish. Whether it's sharing a meal, offering resources, or simply being a welcoming space, This is where community will happen. St. Andrew's is already home to vital ministries. The food pantry in the basement has been operating continuously for several decades. Earlier this year, St. Michael's helped to provide permanent shelving to food pantry guests and clients. This investment has already produced a more dignified shopping experience, and we are seeking ways to fill the growing food needs of the community. The Community Center is designed to be flexible. From hosting support groups and classes, to concerts, workshops, and community meetings, investments are being made as you watch this to position St. Andrew's to be a place that serves within and beyond its walls. At its heart of this new venture, St. Andrew's Community Center is about relationships. It's about neighbors knowing neighbors, churches working with partners, and building a stronger, more connected Manitou Springs together. As we take these first steps, we invite you to join us, share your ideas, bring your energy, and partner with us in creating something lasting. We invite your prayers and to consider being part of the Friends of St. Andrew's Community Center group. If you are interested in learning more or getting involved, you can visit stmikeschurch.com/STACC. From the faithfulness of the past to the energy of today and the hope of tomorrow, St. Andrew's Community Center is here for Manitou Springs, and it's here for you. Together, we will make St. Andrew's Community Center a place of hope, hospitality, and possibility for all.
So we're doing something big. You probably have a lot of questions. We're going to get to a lot of questions. We're going to explain a lot. I wanted to share with you just briefly a little bit of history that got us to this point. So very quickly, last summer I was on sabbatical. I was getting ready for church on my sabbatical to go up north, and I heard God invite me to go to St. Andrew's. So I went. And in the congregation that day were 9 people. As I was sitting there, I heard this voice say, "Help, help." And I'm like, no, I'm on sabbatical, we're not doing it. What that led into was a relationship with the leadership at the time of St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. And earlier this year, myself, a few of the wardens at St. Michael's, helped walk St. Andrew's through the difficult decision to turn their building back over to the diocese. As part of that conversation, St. Andrew's was slated to be sold, and that was the plan. So they were going to maintain a little bit that they had in the bank to ensure that their legacy could continue, to allow the building to be sold, and then to envision something new. What we realized in that season, as St. Michael's was sitting around the table and listening, was that this space was holding an important place in Manitou Springs. And I don't want to be too bold when I say this. I don't know that Manitou Springs needs another T-shirt shop. Can I say that? Or beef jerky. They're good on both of those fronts. And so St. Michael's realized that one of the ways that we could help influence and support this was to take a tremendous, bold step forward into what would become something new at St. Andrew's, utilizing that property and that footprint in the heart of Manitou Springs. And over the past several months, we've been doing a lot of work. There has been a very comprehensive strategic plan that has been pulled together. The bishop's office, the vestry at St. Michael's, the outreach group, we've all been having these conversations and sharing this information. So that brings us to this current point. So I want to just take a moment. We're going to transition this screen, and I'm going to bring up some chairs, and then I want to do some introductions for you with those who are up here and coming up here. So give us a moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Well, I'd love to introduce to you Natalie Johnson, who is the Executive Director of Manitou Arts Center, also known as the MAC. And can I say Mayor-elect of Manitou Springs?
That's correct, yeah.
I hear the pay with the mayor position is just enormous.
And a lot of power, so much power.
Enormous. And I'd also like to introduce a familiar face you may have seen around the halls of St. Michael's for the past few months. This is Nancy Hawley. She is the parish administrator of St. Andrews. She has been working at St. Andrews Episcopal Church for seven years and is moving over on payroll to St. Andrews Community Center. So we have a lot to talk about. I want to start with you, Natalie, because you know Manitou Springs so well. I'd love for you to just share with us. Many of us, we've been to Manitou Springs. We've gone to the Penny Arcade. We've gotten T-shirts and eaten a lot of beef jerky. And would just love for you to share with us a little more about Manitou Springs and why this community center is so important.
Sure. So Manitou Springs. I have been a resident for 22 years. Which means I've been there an acceptable amount of time, but I'm not considered, a long-time resident yet. So it takes a long time to really become embedded in the community in certain ways. So I think I've been the director of the Manitou Arts Center now for about 14 years. Prior to that, I owned a bookstore in town for about 8 years, and then I've held a whole variety of positions. I'm currently the vice president of the school board. I'm mayor pro tem for Manitou Springs. I do a whole variety of things. We are a passionate community, and passion shows itself in many ways, which makes things fun and complicated. But I think what that means is that we care a lot, and everyone's voice and opinion matters. And so when it comes to creating something new in our community, everyone wants to be a part of it, and we don't want any surprises, right? And so how do we launch something like this in Manitou in a way that also brings everyone together and makes this successful? And so I feel like part of my role with this is to help this work. And I know it's going to. You guys have a tremendous track record, but I'm going to kind of help us through the bumps in the road, reach out to different community members. When it comes to things like fundraising, it's possible folks will want and be more comfortable putting that money through the Art Center as opposed to St. Michael's until everyone knows and trusts and believes and buys into all the aspects of who you are, which again, I know they will. And so I'm kind of that interim sort of support as we move forward. And at the Art Center, we have about 120 events a month. We do a lot of sharing, and so it's something that we can bring to the table and to St. Andrews as well. So.
Yeah. Manitou Springs is a community that is 8 miles as the crow flies south of us, and they have approximately 5,000 residents. Median income is slightly less than here in Colorado Springs. But as you know, it is a tremendous tourist destination, an area for visitors who are coming to, whether it's Colorado Springs or Denver or Pueblo or going up into the mountains. Manitou Springs is one of those stops. And how many, we didn't talk about this one question, but I'm curious too. How, tourist-wise, what kind of traffic do you guys see in terms of outside guests?
Gosh, I would say we probably get about 800,000 tourists a year that come through Manitou. About 400,000 ride the COG every year.
Wow.
So a lot of folks coming through. We have our Emma Crawford Coffin Races coming up. We'll get about 20,000 people just that day alone. So a lot of things.
And you heard that right, coffin races, which will be the only time at St. Michael's you'll ever hear it used in that context. Ever.
Yeah, we have coffin building going on right now at the Art Center. It's always fun. I'm waiting for the person that's coming in and doesn't quite understand what we're doing. But you're right. Our demographics, we are about 10 years older than the rest of the county, so the average age is about 48. We are diverse economically, and I think that's that piece of there's a lot of need, and we have, again, a lot of resources that support sort of a business and tourism component, but not a lot of things for the residents themselves. You know, we don't have a grocery store. We don't have a bank right now, actually. We don't have doctors. We don't have a lot of mental health practitioners. There's a lot of holes, and there's a lot of different ways we can fill those holes. And we do believe St. Andrews can definitely tackle quite a few.
So if you're new to this kind of language, we often talk about a food desert when there's not an easy way for residents to have access to fresh fruit or foods or even food in general. From Manitou Springs, the closest grocery store is over 4 miles away, which means if you do not have a vehicle, then that becomes a barrier for you. We also, Manitou Springs, we've learned is there's a health desert, if you will, whether that's mental health or medical health. There are many deserts. There's not a single daycare in Manitou Springs. There's a lot of things that Manitou Springs doesn't have because of that business commercial aspect. And so as we're going through and we're hearing about these deserts and realizing that if St. Andrews went away from Manitou Springs, the impact that it would have on the community. And we felt like we were in a unique position at St. Michael's that we could double down. And part of the discovery phase of this has been a great friendship and relationship with Nancy Hawley, who is, you're a character, Nancy.
Thank you.
So, as you heard, Nancy has been a part of St. Andrews community for 7 years, working on staff. And St. Andrews had a priest who was working at St. Andrews up until about 2 years ago when they retired. And for almost 2 years, Nancy held the congregation together. It was a small congregation, but mighty. I mentioned that there was, many Sundays, 7, 8, 9, 10 people who were worshiping on a Sunday there. And Nancy was handling all the coordination. She, although doesn't live in Manitou Springs, has been designated a honorary Manitoid. I don't know. Can I say that?
I certainly think you can.
Well, listen, if the mayor-elect says you can, then you can. Share with us a little bit about how you've been keeping yourself busy at St. Andrews before St. Michael's came along.
Okay.
Yes.
Fact check.
I'm sorry.
Contrary to public opinion, it seems like, I have not been there since the church was formed in 1870. Okay, I just started there 7 years ago. A quick story, and I'm a storyteller, Matt knows that. A quick story is that I was prior a Catholic, born and raised very heavily into the Roman Catholic. I raised all my children, and when my oldest son was in high school, we had some situations that arose that forced me to completely leave the Catholic faith. Hadn't been in a church in over 40 years, not one foot inside a church. In the apartment complex I'm in, there's a woman named Pam Beck who found me in the hallway one time and said, "Are you Nancy?" Yes. "Well, somebody told me that you know about QuickBooks." "Okay, I have a question." "Okay," and I wrote out an answer, and I thought that'd be the end of it. About 2 weeks later, I get a knock on the door. How she found me, I don't know. But I got a knock on the door and said, "Hi, this is Pam," and that worked, but I got another problem. "Okay, da-da-da-da." She says, "You know what, that sounds complicated. Can you come with me to my job?" I had no idea where she worked. And so I said, "Sure, I'll go and I can help you out a little bit." And she pulls up, or we pull up to this church, and I said, "I thought this was a museum. I'd never seen it open," that kind of thing. And I said, "So you work in a museum? This is awesome." "No." So we went in, and I met Reverend Susie. She turned my life around quickly, even though, and I told her, I said, I'm not going to your sanctuary, I'm not going to your church, I don't want any Eucharist, I don't want any part of this. No organized religion for me. And she was perfectly happy with that. She says, we'll see. That's all she said. We'll see. So 2 years. I was there 2 years before I ever set foot in the sanctuary. So little by little, God was leading her to lead me to where I am now. But it was a tough row. 4 years before I accepted Eucharist. From that point on, and then I have to tell a story about Matt. When he was there visiting, we used to do with visiting priests, a rotation every Sunday. And we had one that was part of your congregation, Reverend Winnie Mitchell. She was there as our priest for the day. And Bob Fawcett, who was our senior warden, he left soon after, he's in Delaware now, but he was there as the acolyte. And Bob leaves just before communion service, leaves and goes into the sacristy. And he was in there a little bit too long. And then Rev Winnie follows him into the sacristy, and I have this emptiness up at the altar. And it's like, so Nancy, being Nancy, jumps up and said, okay, folks, we're taking a quick intermission. We're going to just rest for a minute. Let me go see what's going on. And I run to the back. I had to play acolyte, which I had no idea what acolyte to do. Not acolyte, sorry, altar guild. I knew silver service. Did I get it right? Never. Not once. The priest always had to rearrange. I had forgotten to put the wine out. So here we have a communion service, no wine, and they're trying to find it. So I'm in the back. Here it is. Let's pour. Let's go. And then welcome back. And we continue down with our service. That's what Matt saw. His first time there.
Which
So-
is why I heard help, help.
Exactly.
I was like, God, not my circus, not my tents, not my monkey. I'm just going to sit here.
He was fascinated. Anyhow, he came up to us later and he says, it looks like you and Bob are running the show. And I said, absolutely. And we're going to keep it alive as long as we can. And from that point on, we've just segued on into this magnificent partnership, if you will. Yeah. It's just been fun.
It's
Lots
been
of fun.
fun.
A lot of work, as you can imagine.
It has been a lot of work, which we'll share with you. So typically what happens in the Episcopal world is as a church is declining, a reminder, the average size of an Episcopal church in the country is 34 people in person on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. So when St. Michael sees over 400 on a Sunday in person, I'll let you do the math. But when a church finds itself like St. Andrew's did, they move to what's called imperiled status parish. Sounds pretty ominous, right? Imperiled status. They're in imperiled status. What many of those churches do is they run out their bank account down to zero, and then someone goes to the bishop's office and takes the keys and sets it on her desk and says, here you go. We felt like there was a better way at St. Michael's. I've seen that happen before to other churches, and we thought there could be a new way that we could chart together. And so there's a group from St. Michael's who helped empty 120-ish years. The church building was built in 1905, and so they just had their 120th celebration, if you will. We had a group from St. Michael's come and empty the parish completely to get rid of all the things that weren't bolted down. And that happened earlier this year in March and April. And then in April, in May, we invested in the food pantry with that permanent shelving. And all this time, we were like, all right, we're going to get it ready to sell. But then in the summer, things started to change, and we started to envision. Nancy and I, along with the food pantry coordinator, had a parking lot conversation. And as you know, any parking lot conversation at church can go one of two ways. It can go really well, or it can split the church apart. This went really well. And so soon after we started working with Nancy, Nancy's like, you got to meet this person named Natalie. And we're like, okay, in time. And she's like, no, you have to meet Nancy now. So a meeting was set up months ago, early summer.
I had pancakes.
That was a good breakfast. She had no idea what was in store, but in conversations with Natalie, one of the things we realized is St. Manitou Springs, it lacks many things. What it doesn't lack are people who are passionate about their community. But there wasn't, and there still is not, these great spaces for the community to gather. So St. Andrews, one of the pictures you saw, the food pantry, over on the left is what it originally looked like, just an open floor plan, and then on the right is once we've put in the shelves. Volunteers for 20 plus years had been spending 5 hours every single Wednesday setting up all the food, taking it all away, setting up all the food, packing it all away. So these shelves have helped the volunteers of the food pantry, but also provide that more dignified experience. You know, if you're living on the streets unhoused, if you're living on a fixed income, there's a lot of senior citizens who come, veterans, that this provides a more dignified experience for folks who are coming to the pantry. We also upstairs, this is what the sanctuary previously looked like. And this is what it looks like as of Friday morning. So tremendous investment is being made from St. Michael's to help create space for the community to gather. So now the mayor could say, hey, we're going to meet at St. Andrews Community Center, and we can fit 150 people in this room, and we can have a meeting, and we can talk, or there can be performances or different things. You might be wondering how all this is happening. I'm glad you asked the question. So a lot of this has been a lot of time and energy with a few folks from St. Michael's and the leadership. In conversations with the vestry, I asked for the vestry to designate funds from our campaign that we did this summer to go towards this project. So the vestry has approved $50,000 to go towards getting the building ready to be used, but also to start and launch some new ministries. This is how this work is happening right now. In the bank account for St. Andrews, we have roughly $10,000, and that is only going to last us so long. And so one of the conversations we had early on with Natalie is, how are we going to do this? We know that we want to have some renters come in and provide a monthly reoccurring. We want to maybe rent out the space for some other ways. And Natalie's like, I think we can do better. I think we can do more. And so through some of her connections, we have an opportunity to do something pretty big coming up in 6 days. Would you talk a little bit about how this came to be? And I have some flyers that has this information, so you can take a picture if you like, but I'm gonna, while you're talking, we're gonna pass out some flyers.
Great. So basically the first step is that the arcade, the Manitou Springs Historic Penny Arcade, went up for sale, and John Weiss, a 30-year resident, purchased the Penny Arcade. And with, I would say, the mission and vision of preserving everything that it is, he also wanted to turn it into a nonprofit economic support driver for the community. So hence the name Game Changer. And so this coming Saturday, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., 100% of the proceeds generated at the arcade will go toward the St. Andrews Manitou Art Center project. And so that is something that is happening that is a really fun and easy way to help support what we're doing. We're also doing additional work, asking for support from the community. We have a number of businesses that are donating 5% of their profits from the day to this project. And so there's a whole variety of ways to kind of, again, get folks excited, but also generate some income for this project. I do want to tell the story that one of the people that went to the food bank approached one of the volunteers and said, here's $7. I can't come on Saturday. Please give this to a local kid who can play the arcade games so that we can get a community center in Manitou Springs. And so the ability to feel like you are a part of this became real and becomes real through this, and really is a great way to start the conversation in the community. And we're also inviting all of you to come on down and play the horse derby or skee ball or Pac-Man or any of the fun games that are available. And also, again, tell your friends, tell your family, the families, everyone, just get them down. Again, every dollar counts, every quarter counts, and it's a big deal.
And we want to say a big thank you to John Weiss for this. John Weiss is, some of you may recognize that name, former owner of the Independence. And he recently acquired and purchased the Penny Arcade. And through Natalie's connections and him seeing how this community center could really change Manitou Springs, he wanted to get in. He wanted to start participating. And so leveraging the Penny Arcade and using any of the profit from this Saturday, it going to the Manitou Arts Center, going to St. Andrew's Community Center. I mean, we're tremendously excited that within less than a week of sharing this news with you guys, that there's already something happening. St. Michael's, as we have put in $50,000 initially to this project, is only going to take us so far. So we're hoping with this, some other grants and partnerships that we're looking at, that we will be able to, in probably the next 6 to 9 months, find ourselves in a more stable position. A few other things about just kind of finances as you're sitting here wondering, that with this initial investment into St. Andrews, as St. Michael's is the one in charge of its stewardship and operations and finances and building, is that we want to figure out exactly how the building is going to be used before we get too much further down the road. Listening to the people of Manitou Springs is really important in this. One of the things that I do not want and have not wanted from the beginning as the tea leaves were being read was St. Michael's does not want to be the one that comes into Manitou Springs and says, here's what you're going to do. Here's what we want to see from St. Michael's. What we want to do is go, Natalie, Nancy, what do you guys want to see? What does Manitou really need? So I'm excited because over the next 2 months, we have engaged with a consultant who is going to be doing some focus groups with civic leaders, business leaders, owners, visionaries in the community, to really listen to them, but also listen to the residents and some of the guests that we're currently serving out of the food pantry, to hear, what do you need? You know, we have some ideas, but what do we actually need, and how can this community center be a place where ministry happens? This is a very different model than many closing churches experience. And even in the Diocese of Colorado, there's not a similar model that we can look to and say, here's how we do this. So we know that we're gonna stumble, we're gonna trip over our shoelaces that we forgot to tie occasionally, but we really feel like having this community center be in Manitou Springs is what is needed. It's the right thing for us to do. For St. Michael's to sit on the sideline and go, we can't really do much. That's not the position we're in, nor we want to be in. Some of you may be wondering how this impacts all those other outreach partners that I mentioned. So I showed you that huge list of all our outreach partners. It's not. It's not going to impact our financial support. We're not taking money from those partners to put towards St. Andrews. This is something completely different. This is an extension of St. Michael's in Manitou Springs. It's a ministry of St. Michael's. Having this facility allows us to get proximate to a lot more people than we could on Tudor Road. Tudor Road, St. Michael's is on a dead-end road, right? You know this. You pass the sign every time you come to church. Having nearly 1 million people go through and pass by this community center allows us to get proximate in new ways. Some of our outreach partners that we're working with right now, there's criteria and stipulations that prevent our ability to get proximate and interact. For example, our youth. Our youth are not able to work in some of our outreach partner sites because of their age or their ability. But guess what? Now that this ministry center is connected to St. Michael's and we're supporting it and running it, we'll be able to have our youth go down whenever they want. They want to go down on a Wednesday night for youth group and sort food. Great, excellent. It doesn't have to be at noon on a Monday afternoon. When we were sharing this news with the staff, our music team, Amalia, they started thinking and envisioning, well, what could it look like if we offered a concert down in Manitou Springs? Or what could it look like if we had community events or support groups that were down there or workshops? There's some challenges with Manitou Springs, like parking. There's one parking space at St. Andrews Community Center right now.
1.5.
1.5. And so some of the events, it might make more sense to do after 6 p.m. when there's no charge for parking.
Correct.
Right now, the hourly rate for parking is...
Well, it's progressive, which is complicated, but in general, we like you to stay for 3 hours or less downtown. So if you get to that 4th hour, it jumps.
It jumps. So we're talking $20 for 3 hours maybe to park?
No, it's more like 9.
9?
But again, when you get to that 4th hour, I think it goes up $10 an hour or something.
Maybe
I mean,
that's what's happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have had the chance to meet with our outreach committee to talk about this initiative and what we're doing. And you might be wondering, how you can participate. Natalie mentioned this, but there's other ways as well. In the video, you heard about the Friends of St. Andrews. On your flyer, this is a QR code that'll take you to St. Andrews Community Center website. It's a new website, and once you get out there, this is what you're going to see. And then if you just scroll down or click on Get Involved, there's a button that'll say Friends of St. Andrews. And this interest form, it's a very easy interest form to fill out. If you want to support through helping to organize, if you want to help through volunteerism, if you want to offer financial support, there are ways for you to indicate that on this form right here. I want to share one story with you guys, and I want to have Sandy Willie share this story, if you could. Could you come to the microphone? So as we were helping to clean out St. Andrews, there were a lot of treasures that had been accumulated over 120 years. And one of these items that was discovered in the sacristy of St. Andrews, we want to hear.
My background is that when I first married in 1975, and I was a newly minted Episcopalian, freshly off my pagan phase, that was the first church my husband and I attended. And Father Duell was the priest there, and there was a little mini midweek Eucharist, and he invited me one day. He said, "Hey, you want to be my midweek Eucharist altar guild girl?" And I said, "I don't know when to stand up, sit down, let alone." He said, "It's so easy. We do the Lord's dishes, we do the Lord's laundry, and we set the table for the next time we gather." And I thought, I can do that. And so I was the little altar guild girl, ironing the little purificators, and I don't know why I wanted to make some. So I did. I think I got the linen from that little store that used to be, that sold the
Flying
weird
Eagle.
Battenberg lace and the kind of printed, funky tablecloths. So I know they're too small. They're too small, but I made 3 of them.
People were smaller back then.
That's right. It was the old days. So when I heard that Linda Page was helping clean out St. Andrews, I said to her, if you come across 3 very homemade-looking purificators, never expecting that they would have been found, I said, I'd like them rather than have them go to a garage sale or something. And she texted me 2 days later and said, I think I found your purificators. So I have 3 of them. I kind of, in my mind, would like one at my funeral. And I'd like to give one to Owen when he's ordained, and have one for my kids. But at any rate, that's part of my story.
And how many years had passed from when you made these purificators to when they landed back in your hands?
1975 until now.
Wow, 50 years. And there's more to the story because you're...
The St. Andrews, the Lord's Supper, or the
Yes.
Lord's Dinner, started at our house. It was John and I and a friend named Jody Welch. We found that after we'd worshiped, we liked to eat together. And then we ran into an immediate problem that it turns out we had 3 chairs and 4 friends. So we asked Father Duell, because John was the sexton. He mopped the floors for free. We just kept adding a 0 to his salary, was the joke. And we said, could we conceivably use the parish hall because we have 3 chairs and 4 friends? And what we found was if you cooked food, which was always just spaghetti, because we were poor, and opened the door, and then people started coming. And
Yeah.
so that was how that started. It was just a loaves and fishes. So that was that. But I love St. Andrews.
Thank you.
With all
Thank
my
you for
heart.
sharing that.
I'd like to.
So we are going to continue to have conversations about St. Andrews Community Center. We know there's going to be questions that you guys have. The vestry, the wardens, are well equipped to answer questions. You can also speak to Nancy. You can ask Natalie questions afterwards as well. I want to, I'm looking at our time, and I'm trying to figure out questions versus final words from you guys and stuff for us.
I just wanted to throw something in. Thank you so much for what you said. We hang on to everything there. I mean, nothing ever was thrown away, believe me. I think Kathy certainly could tell you that. But all of the sacred relics and linens and robes and garments and vestments and all of that went to other churches because I wanted to make sure they went to places where it was understood what they were and had the reverence behind them. So nothing went out to the general public like a garage sale. We did have an estate sale later, but that was for the miscellaneous, china and kitchenware and that sort of thing. So please feel comfortable that it all went where it needed to go. And that was the one thing I wanted to make sure you knew. So,
Good.
Question. Okay.
I just wanted to say that it feels like in the world right now, right, a lot of things are being deconstructed and falling apart, being dissolved, all those different things. And you all are deciding to grow and build. And there's a lot of courage in that. And I want to say that it feels so good. And so I just want to thank you all for building at a time when there is not a lot of building happening. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you for all of that work with all those organizations. It's fantastic.
Yes,
You guys
yeah.
are really kicking butt out here.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So.
We're kicking butt for Jesus. That's what we do.
So if anybody wants to come and visit St. Andrews, I mean, I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, usually from 8:30 to noonish, depending on. Wednesdays, I'm always there because it's pantry day. But please come and visit. I love to show this place off, no matter what it looks like. So welcome.
And you'll be there Saturday.
Oh yeah, I'll be there Saturday. Yes, on when they're doing the arcade, I'll be there and do something that I like to call open doors. That's where the open door, thank you for that, comes from, because so many people thought, like I did, even Manitoids did, that it was a museum, and it's not. It's still a church. It's just not functioning as a worship place. However, there's still a lot of God there. You'll feel it. So come and visit.
Thank you, everyone. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thanks be to God.
Hallelujah.